How will China's economy take its uphill climb? How would ASEAN cope with the current global financial turbulences? More answers await with Dr. Iwan Aziz and his analysis.
Can you explain some of the measures that will further deepen the financial markets in the region?
You mean integration?
Yes.
Integration of
Yes.
financial markets.
Yes.
Well, there are still a lot of obstacles.
Such as?
Well, such as, there is no clear settlement kind of procedures for, like, say, Thai investors invest in the Philippines,
Yes.
or Singapore investors invest in Malaysia and so forth. So, those kind of infrastructure, quote unquote, are still plenty to improve. Yeah, and we have to work on that.
But the Chinese has proposed the yuan as an alternative currency for trading investment. What is your opinion?
Yeah, it is going to happen. It is going to happen. Look, China is the second largest economy in the world.
Yes.
It is just making sense that their currency will play a major role in the global trading as well as in the global financial world.
What about in the equities market? Within ASEAN countries, there's been talk about ASEAN asset class. For example, for equities in Thailand, in Malaysia or Singapore to be interlinked.
Yeah.
What's your comment on that?
Oh, I support fully on that. But keep in mind, when we talk about the ASEAN, there are also the smaller ASEAN countries, what we call CMLP, Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, and Vietnam. So we also have to bring them up to the level where, as the other ASEAN countries, so that the intra-regional interaction is really taking place in a positive way, and it's not a zero-sum game. Everybody will benefit of it.
But like you mentioned, Cambodia is opening up the stock exchange. Laos has already opened.
Correct.
And soon in other countries, what is your, in your opinion, what is the prospect of this regional integration?
I'm optimistic with that. That is a good start. But as I indicated earlier, there are still many bottlenecks. They have to do about the standardization, for example, harmonization, settlement, payment, and so on. It's still a lot of infrastructure things that needs to be done. And I'm pretty optimistic that this will happen in the coming years.
Do you think it's easier to do it within ASEAN, which has only 10 member countries, rather than the planned Asia, which has so many other countries in terms of integration?
No, I think it's the same thing. The ASEAN or ASEAN Plus 3 or ASEAN Plus 6, I think it's the same thing. Okay, what is the big picture here? When you have more integrated system, you have risk sharing. That is the major benefit of having an integrated system. So it doesn't matter whether it's 10 or 13 or 16.
So can you tell us about the latest trends in your 2010 report on the Asian Capital Markets Monitor?
Okay, basically there are three sort of conclusions. One is that growth-wise, economic growth-wise, the region has been doing very well after even after the V-shaped recovery in 2010. And in terms of the growth rate numbers, we are expecting in 2011 and 2012 it's still above 7%.
On average in
on
Asia.
average for emerging Asia.
Who is the number one? China?
China is still
number two?
leading. I don't remember the numbers now, but basically the growth rate has been moderating. Now it's not falling, it's moderating because 2010 is unusual, unusually high. Because simply you are coming from the low base, right? So it is moderating to above 7%. So that's number one. Number two is about the capital flows. We also observe that capital flows are still coming to the region.
From the West?
Well, from everywhere actually. Despite what I indicated at the beginning of our conversation, that there's some degree of nervousness in the global market. So to me that indicates that Asia is still a good alternative destination.
But
for investors.
As a result of the S&P downgrade of U.S. securities, some monies have been flowing back, like in the Thai stock market. There's been outflow Is that a short-term thing or how's the outlook?
Yeah, see, your question earlier is about this report. Now we have
Yes.
I have to stress the report was prepared before
Yes.
the S&P downgrade decision. Okay, if you're asking now about what is the impact on the S&P decision, of course there's a psychological effect, and
Yes.
we saw it now. There is a panic in the market, but as the dust is settled, I believe that Asia will continue to be an attractive destination for investment. So that's the second. And then the last point of the report is about regional financial integration, which I indicated earlier. We predict that it's going to increase in the coming years. Especially, I give you one dramatic example, is what happened with the corporate bonds in the region. Has been growing very fast.
And Thailand is going to have the new government with Kun Yingluck Shinawatra as the first female prime minister. In your opinion, what kind of economic policies and measures that the new government should be taking, especially in the wake of the S&P downgrade of the U.S. Treasuries?
Well, I don't think any specific policy recommendation for specific country, including Thailand. But overall, as I indicated earlier, now I think the worry should be tilted more towards the risk of slowing down of the economy. And that should translate into all policies, including monetary policy, fiscal policy, and other policy, exchange rate policy, and so forth. So the region needs to make sure that whatever the impact of the slowing down of the global economy will not have a negative impact on the region's economy.
So you are saying that maybe it's not as urgent as before to increase the interest rate, for example?
I'm not saying that, but I think you can interpret that way. But I'm not saying actually, because each government in each country knows best about their own situation. I'm only talking in general, that I think the risk of the slowing down of the economy is now getting bigger.
And on the fiscal policy, what is?
Yeah, well, in 2008,
stimulus?
Yeah, some countries, well, all countries have adopted the stimulus package after the Great Recession in 2008. Some countries started to withdraw that stimulus package, right, because the V-shaped recovery and so on. Now,
do we need the stimulus again?
It can be. I don't know. It's up to the policymakers in regions, but it is only logical that now, with the increased concern of the slowing down of the economy, it is only logical to expect that there will be another set of policies that will prevent the slowing down of the economy.
In your opinion, how bad the slowdown will likely be at this stage?
It's not going to be a recession like in 2008, another recession, but it's definitely slowing down, because if you look at the U.S. economy, the first half of this year,
zero growth nearly already.
Almost, yeah. It's very, very low, much lower than most people expect, right? And
European, what about you?
Let me finish with the U.S. first. And it turns out to be slower than what market expected. And everybody expected the second half will be stronger. But now, with what happened in last Friday, maybe it's also another slow growth, even the second half of the year. I think in the coming years, the U.S. economy will have to, observe a slow growth, between 2 and 3% growth maybe in the next few years.
But so far, you're still quite certain that there wouldn't be a double dip recession at this?
Well, the risk is always there. The risk is always there. And as I mentioned in my talk earlier this morning, that sometimes the final outcome not so much depends on the event itself, but depends on what is the policy response. So the risk is there if the policy response is not conducive. Now, when we talk about policy response, of course, we are not only talking about economic condition, it's political condition, especially what happened in the US,
I see. And on the European debt crisis and the outlook?
Definitely the cost of borrowing will go up, because, we are talking about situations whereby the government debt was really in a critical situation for some countries. Keep in mind that not all European countries, many of the European countries are doing very well actually, but because of what happened in selected European countries, especially with respect to their debt and fiscal condition, it number one, it can it creates some contagion effect to the rest of the Europe, as well as it creates a perception among the markets about Europe as one, especially that now they are member of one unit, that is the European Union, right?
I see.
So it's the perception is also there.
And on China, so what is your concerns?
China is doing quite well in terms of dealing with the inflationary pressure last year, in the sense that they are not just using one single instrument, policy instrument, they are using a mix of policy instrument. And if I look at the 12 5-year plan, they are doing the right things, that is, moving from focusing on growth to focusing on development issues.
I see. And overall, in Asian economies, you mentioned earlier about the exchange rate policies tend to be, like in Thailand, the Thai baht has been stronger. Is that the trend to stay, or?
Yeah, of course, this is one area where regional cooperations can play a role, okay?
Yes.
Because if one country come up with a particular policy, that particular policy may have a spillover effect on other neighboring countries, and that's why it is important to explore the possibility of cooperation. Keep in mind, when we talk about exchange rate, it's basically the price of two parties, right?
Yes.
Country A vis-a-vis country B.
Yes.
So, if everybody's exchange rate is moving in the same direction, it may not affect the competitiveness of that export of that particular country.
So thank you, Dr. Aziz,
Sure.
for joining our program.
Follow Towards 2015 open up to the ASEAN market every Wednesday and Thursday from 10:30 to 11 p.m. on ASEAN TV, and you can follow us online via Facebook only on ASEAN TV.